Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1091, 1091, Thursday, April the 2nd, 2020. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, so I want to say thank you to everyone who got into the comments section yesterday and put in there where you're at in the country or around the world and what the situation is where you are. That was very helpful, especially because I've people from all over the country and around the world who tune into my YouTube channel. So it's really hard when you're in your own community on lockdown and you kind of see the news, but you don't really know what to trust or what to believe. So it's really nice to see people in the comment section say, hey, I live in this town or this city and here's what's going on here. Here's what things look like here. And so it was really helpful. And I'm sure a lot of you strolled through those comments yesterday and took a look at we had people commenting from the Carolinas, North and South, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, several from California, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, the Dakotas. Did I say Colorado? I think Colorado, Michigan, New York, Maine. Just very spots all around the country. So it was very interesting to read the comment section and see how everything looks and various parts around the country for where all you are right now. So thanks so much for taking the time to go in the comment section and give me such good descriptions of what's going on in the part of the country that you're in. And it's very helpful for me and for everyone else in the group here to kind of be able to see what's going on, because I have friends that live all across the country. I'm sure many of you do as well. So it's nice to find out what's maybe going on around the country outside of where we live, to see if people are experiencing the same thing we are. So anyway, thanks a lot for taking the time to do that. I really appreciate it. I'm sure we all do. So there you go. Another thing, unfortunately, I will not be doing a video for Friday. They're sending me to Akron tomorrow. That's right, sending me to Akron. Not that I don't like Akron, but because I'm up there usually about once every month or two at least. Normally for a service call, but for tomorrow it's something different. But anyway, it's like about a 4-hour drive from where I am. Hopefully traffic will be light because there's not a lot of people on the roads. A lot of trucks, but not a lot of people on the roads these days in Ohio anyway. So hopefully there won't be too much traffic, but there normally isn't on the drive up to Akron. It's a fairly, it's kind of a scenic route actually. I take the scenic route, from Cincinnati anyway. So yeah, it's like about a 4-hour drive up there, 4 hours back. I'll be up there for probably 3 or 4 hours. So it'll be a long day and a very long day and a late night for me tomorrow. So yeah, I won't be doing a video on Friday. Probably won't even get home till probably after midnight time I get back home. So anyway, and I gotta be at work Friday morning, 8 o'clock or whatever. So anyway, unfortunately no video on Friday, but I will be back on Saturday and we'll get back to it. So let's go ahead and dig into the news of the day. So yesterday I mentioned it was the second story I covered yesterday. It's an important story, and it's going to be something we'll be following up on as the full report comes out. But I was talking yesterday about Inspector General Huckleberry Horowitz releasing a preliminary report on the full report that he's going to be having, that's going to be coming out. And what's important to note about this, and I'm going to go into some details here in a minute, but what's important is that normally Horowitz would not have done this. But the reason that he put out this preliminary report, and he didn't make it available so much to the Congress or the news media or anything like that. This was specifically designed, Horowitz designed this specifically to go to Attorney General Barr and Christopher No Shit Sherlock Ray, because he wanted to let them know, hey, I got this report that I'm getting ready to put out, and it's going to be given to members of Congress, and it'll be, probably in the media. They won't cover it, of course, but Fox will probably cover it, but none of the rest will. But he said, there's a sense of urgency here. You need to know that what I found here, it's really bad. As bad as everything else is that we already learned from FISA and what the Horowitz discovered from the previous report and the one before that and the one before that. This one is even more disturbing to the Inspector General. And that's why he didn't even want to wait. He wanted to give Barr and Ray a heads up and let them know, hey, here's what's coming down the pike. It's really bad. So let's just go through just some of a little bit of the detail. There'll be a lot more detail in the main report when that comes out. We don't know what date that's going to be, but we know that just from what's in this preliminary report, we can get an idea of how bad this looks. So again, this is an audit that Horowitz decided to do because after going through the Carter Page FISA, they determined that, wow, is this just a one-off thing, or is this something that happens routinely? So they decided to go back and do a random audit of FISAs. And that's what produced this preliminary report, which will be entailed in a much larger report in more detail. But just in this preliminary report, which reviewed 29 FISAs, and they were randomly selected FISAs taken from 8 different FBI field offices from a time period between 2014 and 2019. And they also looked at 42 of the DOJ NSD reviews or self-checks, because apparently both the DOJ and the FBI have their own internal group of people who are supposed to do their own follow-up checks on these FISAs. And wait till you hear what he found there. So I think what's interesting about this first thing that we learn is a time period, 2014 to 2019. So this covers obviously the last 2 years of Obama the last 2 years of Obama, and then what's gone on since Obama. And as you'll see here, nothing has really changed. So this also captures that critical period, 2014, 2015, 2016, when a lot of the real heavy stuff was going down. The FISA abuses that we know about from the previous Horowitz reports are all contained within this period, 2014 to 2016. And then, of course, Trump's elected. Then 2017, the shenanigans continue. And this actually goes all the way through 2019. And what we learn here is that, you would think that that after the Mueller investigation, the IG reports, the House Intelligence Committee report on FISA and the Carter Page stuff, that this stuff would be cleaning it up. But as you can clearly see, and what Horowitz points out, and the reason that he put out this preliminary report to blow the whistle to get this and bar and raise hands so quickly is because he wants them to know, hey, this stuff is still going on. It is still going on. Nothing's been fixed. So Horowitz found in this specific investigation, looking at these 29 random FISAs and the 42 DOJ NSD reviews, he found that all the FISA processes in every field office were grossly deficient. In most cases, there was zero compliance with FISA standards. That's Horowitz's words. Zero compliance with FISA standards in every field office of the 8 that they looked at. There was grossly deficient in every single district and every field office. Zero compliance with FISA standards. He also found the 29 FISA applications, which were essentially Title I surveillance warrants, were used against U.S. persons. Now, what does the F in FISA stand for? Foreign. Foreign. The FISA system was supposed to be to look at foreign people, terrorists, people like that. But as we can clearly see, just as we saw in 2016, these FISAs are being used on American citizens. And the 29 random FISAs that he pulled from a period of 2014 to 2019, in every single case, it was a U.S. citizen. It was targeted with the FISA, the Title I surveillance. That should tell you a lot. You should not be able to get a FISA on an American citizen unless you are absolutely certain he's talking to a terrorist or something like that. But we know that that's not the case at all. And that's exactly what Horowitz is pointing out. We find that 4 of the 29 FISAs that Horowitz looked at were completely missing a Woods file, meaning that there was zero supporting evidence for any of the FBI claims against U.S. persons on these 4 particular FISAs. In other words, the FBI just made it up. 100% of the FISA applications that Horowitz looked at were materially deficient on the Woods file requirements. The average amount of deficiencies per file was 20, with the low being 5 and the high being 63. 63. Half of the FISAs used confidential human sources like Halper. Many of these FISAs had no supporting documentation attesting to the dependability of the confidential human source. Half of the FISAs used involved confidential human sources, spies. Many of these FISAs had no supporting documentation attesting to the dependability of the CHS, and of course, one of those we learned from the previous report was the fat man, Stefan Halper. They were allowing him to do what he was doing, and they had not done anything to update his file, and I think it was over 10 years. And if you go back, of course, as we know, going back over 10 years, he was busted in Washington, D.C. For being in possession of cocaine. He's a cokehead working as a confidential human source for the government. Two of the FISAs that they looked at had renewals. 0 of these two FISAs had re-verification, which is mandatory. When you go to get a FISA, you get the FISA and you want to get a renewal, you have to then sort of get the FISA reauthorized. You have to, and to do that, you need to show where the first FISA produced some result which justifies renewing it. And there has to be some updated information that you learned. You have to say, yes, we got the FISA, and from that FISA we learned this. None of that occurred in these two FISAs which had renewals. None of it. 0 re-verification. And therefore, according to Horowitz, both of these FISA renewals were completely non-compliant. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, both the FBI and the DOJ also have a required self-check of FISAs. The DOJ and the FBI both are supposed to have their own internal people reviewing these FISAs to make sure that they're compliant. So Inspector General Huckleberry Horowitz looked at 42 of these, what they describe as accuracy reviews. He looked at 42 of the accuracy reviews and found that only 3 of the 42 were accuracy compliant. In other words, 3%. 3%. Man, oh more. What more do you need to know that this FISA process should be completely shut down? It should be ended. There's no way to fix this. Remember, this is going all the way up to the end of 2019. Just a few months back. After all that we've learned from 2016 on, 2017 on, you would think that they would have cleaned up the mess, cleaned up their act, fixed the problems. No, they haven't done anything. And that's why Horowitz is so horrified, and why he sent this to Barr and Ray to say, look, man, after all that we know up to this point, after all that I've done through my investigations and what the Congress has done with all that we now know, and you still have these problems. It's almost a joke. It's almost a joke if it weren't so serious. Now, I certainly would expect that Durham is going to be extremely interested in these 29 FISAs. I expect that Durham, now we're never going to know the names of these people, but Durham certainly would be interested in knowing the names of these individuals who are in these 29 FISAs. And this could go a long way to being evidence that he would use, because again, this shows that this was not just Comey and the gang under Obama. Remember, this is all happening under Obama. This whole time frame is under Obama. It's under Loretta Lynch. It's under Eric Holder. Holder, Lynch, and Obama. The three top officials responsible for this, and the FISA court head judge, which would be John Roberts. They're really all the top people that are responsible for making sure FISA is followed. So this is going to be very important to Durham's investigation, because now we can show that this is not just a one-off with Carter Page, that this is routine. This is how things work. And what is probably the most important thing for Durham to find out when he looks at this is to get the names of these individuals. Now, I assume he can, because what you want to find out is, who were these 29 people? And remember, this is just a sample. This is just a random sample. But who were these 29 people? These 29 American citizens who had these FISAs on them? Why did they have these FISAs on them? Because if you get the names of these individuals, these 29 people, and you find out that these people were political enemies of the Obama administration, that is exactly making the case that Durham is going to be making in a conspiracy, that this was a political attack by the Obama administration on Trump and his campaign. And if you've only got Carter Page FISA, you've got one FISA to argue about. But if you've got 29 people who were targeted for political reasons because they were political enemies of Obama, and again, I don't know that, I'm just suggesting that if that is the case, if we find out that these 29 people were in fact people who would be considered on the enemies list of Obama or Holder or Lynch or their administration, that would certainly be something that Durham would love to have in his ammo pouch. Because then he just wouldn't be talking about Carter Page. He could show 29 others, and that's just what we found out from a random sampling. Imagine if you looked at every FISA during the Obama years, what you'd find. How many political enemies of Obama do you think you'd find on that list? So if I'm Durham, I definitely want to see this report. I mean, this certainly is major ammunition that's going to work very favorably for him when he goes to prosecute these people, because now he can show this just wasn't a one-off deal. It just wasn't, one case of, oh, we did some things wrong. This is a systemic problem. And then the other thing you want to know is, who were these people? And if it turns out that these were all people would be considered political enemies of Obama, his administration, now you have a very strong case against Obama using the FISA process to go after his political enemies. And finally, how about the timing of all this? I mean, if you're going to put out something like this, that's this damaging, now would be a good time to do it, because coronavirus is sucking all the oxygen out of the room. There's nothing else that anyone is talking about except coronavirus. So now is a very good time to put out something like this if you don't want it getting a lot of headlines. Now, Jim Jordan has already zeroed in on this and has already sent a letter to Nadler saying that he needs to have hearings. But that's not going to happen. Nadler is not going to have any hearings. But Lindsey Graham is supposedly in the process of doing his own investigation. And certainly this is something that he will want to include. And something he certainly will want to have his people review. Because again, right now they can just, if all they're focused on right now is just the Carter Page FISA, they can just play it as a one-off, oh, some things didn't happen, or maybe Carter Page really deserved a FISA. There was enough there to suspect maybe we should have looked at Page or whatever. They can argue this sort of gray matter all they want. But when you have 29 additional examples of massive fail and massive corruption and crime, that's a whole different story. It takes away that excuse that it's just a one-off. No, this is a systemic problem. And then, if you find out that the people, these 29 people, like Carter Page, were all political targets, now you have a serious, serious crime, with no doubt. It's already a crime with Page, but this removes any doubt that it was a political operation. It had nothing to do with national security or Russians or anything else. It was just Obama using the FISA process along with Susan Rice and the rest, Comey and all the bunch, to go after political enemies. That takes the scandal into a completely different level at this point. Now, we had that disgusting Jake Crapper interviewing Governor Newsom from California. And he prefaced, the very first thing he says to Newsom in the interview is, I talked to a lot of Democratic governors over the past few days, and they tell me that, they kind of have to be nice about what they say about President Trump, and have to be nice to him on the phone because they're afraid that they're not, that he won't give them what they need or whatever. And there's this feeling that Democrat governors are a little bit hesitant to say anything or criticize Trump because they're afraid he'll cut off aid or won't give them what they need, or that maybe they're afraid on the phone to pressure him about something they need because they're afraid about that Trump will withhold things from. This is, of course, horrible for Crapper to say something like that. But to his credit, Governor Newsom looked right at Crapper and said, well, as far as I'm concerned, Trump has been totally responsive. Every time I call, he gets on the phone quickly. He told Crapper that he has never had to temper his request with Trump, and that Trump has given him everything he has asked for. And Crapper looked you gotta see the look on Crapper's face, so disappointed. He thought Newsom would surely be the guy to play along with this crap. This shows you how bad these people are. This shows you how bad these people are. This was the preface to the interview. Hey, welcome for coming on my show today. Hey, I'm talking to a lot of Democrat governors who won't be honest about Trump or what's going on with Trump because they're afraid that he'll hold it against them. What's your thoughts on that? I mean, that's not journalism, my friends. That's not news, and that is just disgusting. Despicable. It's absolutely despicable. Oh, then we have, of course, Burisma Joe going on PMSNBC and calling for virtual remote voting in 2020. Now, I can absolutely guarantee you that Burisma Joe doesn't have a single clue what virtual remote voting even is. He could not define it for you if his life depended on it. He's just blabbering some things that some other person wrote down and told him to say. This guy's totally clueless, and it was another disastrous interview. He went on a rant, lost track of what he was saying as he was saying it. He was attempting to read from note cards again, and he obviously could not read from note cards because even when he's got note cards in front of him, he can't keep his thoughts together. And again, he forgets what he's saying while he's saying it while reading note cards. Now, as I mentioned yesterday, we learned today that behind the scenes, the bug-eyed fool, Adam Schiff, is working to put together a major investigation of how the Trump administration responded to the coronavirus crisis, and he is pushing to try to get a 9/11 Commission-style investigation. A 9/11 style, well, generally a president appoints a presidential commission, not Congress. So this is the bug-eyed fool dreaming again. But as I said a day or two ago, I absolutely guarantee you that the demo commies are going to try to impeach Trump again before November 2020 over this. You watch and see. It's exactly what they're going to try to do. Now, we know that Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci have ties and links and connections in their past history to the Clintons, the Clinton Foundation, the Obama administration, and Democrats. Now, maybe some of you might be thinking, well, because Birx and Fauci are kind of two of Trump's top advisors in this thing, they probably won't do it because, you know, they'd be shining some bad light on these people. But I'm telling you, they don't care. Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci will not get a pass here. They will not be spared. They will be thrown under the bus and skewered right along with everyone else around Trump and his team around the handling of this coronavirus. They'll drag these two in and try to destroy them as well. because in order, they don't care. If they're willing to destroy the country to damage Trump, they certainly would have no problem destroying Birx and Fauci's careers or reputations. Forget them. Throw them under the bus. As far as we're concerned right now, they're working for Trump. Screw them. Let's go ahead and ruin them too. This is how bad it is. Then we also have Burisma Joe saying that if he were Trump, that he would call Obama. And he says it would be wise for Trump to call Obama. And the reason why? Because according to Biden, because of the way they handled the last pandemic very well. They botched it badly, my friends, and you all know it. Not only that, after that, when they were told to replenish the respirators and the masks and all the other PPE stuff, they did not do it. They're the ones who left Trump and his administration in the situation they were in, because they failed to replenish the things that they used in the Obama administration when they had the pandemic. And a lot more people had died at that time than have died now. And eventually that will catch up. But still, the idea that Biden and Obama did anything great or extraordinary during that pandemic is just not true. Go back and look at the record. They didn't do a very good job. They just got a free pass from the media. But it's hilarious that Biden thinks that Trump should call up the guy that laid the tripwires to destroy his presidency, the guy who was one of the head coup plotters against him, and ask him for advice. And why should he be calling Obama? Obama's not running for president. It's Burisma Joe that's running for president. And it's not incumbent upon Trump to call Biden. He's kind of busy. But if Burisma Joe has any bright ideas, it would be upon him to call the president and say, hey, Mr. President, I know I could very likely I'm going to be your opponent, but hey, I've got this idea that you may want to take a look at. And believe me, if Trump thought it was a good idea, he'd look at it. But Burisma Joe has no good ideas. He just reads shit off a note card. He doesn't even know what he's doing. He doesn't know what he's saying while he's saying it, most of the time. What a disgusting and disturbing comment. And here's another suggestion for you, Burisma Joe. Why don't you give Obama a call? Maybe asking for an endorsement. I mean, after all, the primary is basically over. I mean, Biden has a 300-point delegate lead. There is no way Bernie can ever catch him. Essentially, Biden is going to be the Democratic nominee. So why hasn't Obama endorsed him? Why hasn't the rotten Reverend Clinton endorsed him? Why haven't other high-powered Democrats endorsed him? It's because the reason they haven't endorsed him is because right now they're busy behind the scenes trying to figure out a way that they can get rid of him and replace him. So Biden is wanting Trump to call the guy who laid the trap wires to try to destroy Trump's presidency before it even got started, was a key player in the coup plot. He's also the person who has not ever endorsed Biden. He's the person who, even after Biden has the thing sewn up and could probably use a little help from Barack, has never come out and given his endorsement, even though Biden is going to be the nominee unless they take him out. And the reason that Biden isn't calling him, the reason that Barack Obama isn't calling Biden, and the reason that there isn't anything going on there is because Barack Obama is busy, along with Clinton and other DNC deep staters, to try to figure out what they're going to do to how they're going to get rid of Biden. So here he is, completely oblivious to the fact that while he's going on and doing these TV shows and trying to pretend like he actually knows something about anything, the whole time his own damn party is plotting a way to figure out how they can get rid of him and replace him with somebody, anybody. What a clueless son of a bitch he is, man. He really just needs to shut up is what he needs to do. Be the best thing he could do. Well, the New York Times wants a bailout, right along with a lot of other media organizations, fake news organizations. I wouldn't give them a single penny. They better not. Now, I know PBS and NPR got a little money in this last, buried in this last bill, But in this next one that they're working on, I'm hearing and that a lot of these so-called fake news organizations are going to try to get hundreds of millions of dollars of bailout money themselves. Better not. If we give one of these fake news people a single penny, I am going to be furious. Let them fail. In a typical, what you'd expect, despicable move by the Commie News Network, they did not air Trump's Tuesday night briefing. Now, this is probably his most important briefing to date, because it was in that briefing last night that he pretty much said, look, man, the next 2 weeks, they're going to be brutal. Prepare yourself for what's coming. It was probably the most serious press conference I've ever seen Trump give. It was absolutely critical that this information get out to the American public and know what to expect in the next 2 weeks to really, really tighten down, do everything we can, because this is the point in the next 2 weeks where things could get really badly out of hand, which is exactly what the Democrats want. Oh yeah, they want this economy to be destroyed because it will destroy Trump. But if it doesn't, they got impeachment number 2 planned in the works. Schiff is working on it right now. Absolutely despicable. So, something we really haven't had much time to talk about in the last couple of weeks since the coronavirus has been going on and everything else. I just want to take a minute. Just want to take a minute to focus on here for a second. You know, we haven't talked much about what's going on in Europe, but obviously things are really bad in Europe. And I think that again, as I've said a couple times during this crisis, that although things are really bad, and I think, this economy is going to take a hit, I don't know it's going to recover as quick as a lot of people think it is. I don't know you can just flip the switch on it. I think we'll be okay down the road, but it has a lot to do with the next 2 weeks. Although I'm of the opinion that we really can't go beyond another 2 weeks with this economy being shut down the way that it is. It's really starting to take a toll. And at some point, I think we have to get back to work and suck it up and accept the realities that certain people should probably not go back to work. If you have pre-existing conditions, you have health problems, anything like that, you probably shouldn't go back to work. That's a small percentage of the workforce. The majority of healthy people, we need to get this country back to work, or things are going to get really bad, if you know what I mean. But over in the EU, what these European countries have learned is that the EU and Brussels failed so miserably in all of this that everyone had to sort of turn to themselves. All these countries in the EU had to figure it out for themselves. There was no leadership from the EU whatsoever, and all the advice they got was bad and wrong advice. They've all had to pretty much fend for themselves, and now all these countries in Europe are closing their borders. And I think that one thing that may come out of all of this when it's all said and done is that I think we are going to see a precipitous collapse of the EU. As many of you know, I've said in previous videos, I predicted that I'd give them 10, 15 years tops, that the EU by 2035, somewhere in that range, would no longer exist in its present form. But I think that as badly as they've bobbled this crisis in Europe, I think that the EU, I'd be surprised if there is still a European Union 5 years from now, maybe even 2 years from now. I think this has been a massive wake-up call to all these European countries that the EU is horribly dysfunctional and that they really dropped the ball so bad here that I just don't think that they're going to be around much longer. I think this could very well be a major blow to the EU. We could be seeing the end of the European Union. I think it's begin collapsing. As soon as this is over, I think you're going to see a lot of things going down. And one of those major things will be the EU itself. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll be back on Saturday. You guys take care. Bye.